I was folding laundry when my daughter-in-law called, the kind of call that changes how you see people forever. "Dad," she said, her voice sharp and sugar-coated at the same time, "you don't do anything anymore. You can watch my kids while I go to Hawaii. Before we continue, let me know where you're watching from in the comments." It's strange how a few words can slice deeper than a knife. You don't do anything anymore. I had just retired after 42 years working the line at Boeing in Tacoma, Washington. My back still popped every morning like bubble wrap, and the smell of oil and aluminum still clung to my hands. I'd spent a lifetime keeping airplanes in the air, but apparently I was now too useless to keep myself relevant. I didn't say a word. I just looked at the photo of my late wife on the mantel and forced a smile she would have recognized, a smile that meant I was about to do something nobody would see coming. She showed up the next morning at exactly 7. Not 7:05, not a text saying, "We're on our way," just the sharp beep of a car horn outside my house. When I opened the door, she was in sunglasses and flip-flops, tan already, as if she'd been on vacation for years. The kids, Aiden, 13, Chloe, 10, and Leo, 7, stood behind her like 3 overpacked suitcases. "Here they are," she said, thrusting a list into my hand. "No sugar, no soda, no TV before dinner, no chili. It gives them gas." She didn't even step inside. The SUV engine was still running. I asked, "Where's my son?" "Working." "Someone has to," she said, and gave me that smirk, the one people use when they think they've already won. She didn't notice that the light above my porch wasn't a light. It was a motion camera I'd installed after raccoons started getting into my trash. Old habits die hard. A machinist never trusts something you can't see moving. As she drove away, I felt something shift inside me. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was both. I stood in my living room looking at the quiet that filled it after her car turned the corner. I hadn't expected to spend retirement babysitting, but I wasn't about to let anyone treat me like a free daycare. The first few hours with the kids were awkward. Aiden glued to his phone, earbuds in. Chloe sat on the couch like she'd been sentenced to death. Leo asked if my Wi-Fi could run Minecraft faster than theirs. I told him it could, but the password cost 5 chores. Chloe rolled her eyes. "Mom says you're too cheap to pay for real internet." "Mom says a lot of things," I replied, and went to make breakfast. Bacon, eggs, and the chili she banned. That's when the first twist hit. My phone buzzed, a notification from the family bank app. A purchase for $1,298 at a Waikiki spa. On my son's card. My name was still linked because I co-signed their first loan years ago. I stared at the screen and realized she hadn't even been in Hawaii for 12 hours. I didn't tell the kids. Not yet. Instead, I turned off the Wi-Fi router and slid my old GoPro from the drawer. I had used it to record time-lapse videos of car rebuilds back when I restored a 1969 Ford. I set it under the TV stand, light disabled. Just a precaution, I told myself. Around noon, someone knocked, not the soft kind. 3 hard, official-sounding knocks. When I opened the door, a woman in a gray jacket flashed her badge, Child Protective Services. "We received a report that your home might be unsafe for children," she said. I felt the air leave my chest. "From who?" "I can't say, sir, but we need to take a quick look." The kitchen was spotless. Pine Sol, Folgers, coffee smell, dishes drying on the rack. She checked the fridge, saw the lunch I'd packed. Peanut butter sandwiches, carrot sticks, chocolate milk boxes. "Do you often care for them?" she asked. "Not often enough, apparently." Aiden spoke up from the hallway. "Mom said your house has cockroaches." The inspector turned to me. I pointed at the floor, spotless tiles shining under the light. "Ma'am, if you find one, I'll pay you $50. She didn't find one, but she did find something else. An opened envelope on the counter. A notarized travel consent form naming my daughter-in-law as the kid's sole guardian for overseas travel. dated last month. I hadn't seen it before. When the inspector left, she gave me a look halfway between pity and suspicion. "We'll be in touch," she said. After she drove off, the house went quiet again. Too quiet. I looked at the consent form. The notary's stamp date said December 26th. I remembered that week clearly. Our city hall was closed for the holidays, which meant the document was fake. I looked at the three kids sitting on the couch, their faces blank from too many screens and too little affection. Somewhere between anger and heartbreak, I realized something awful. This wasn't about babysitting. It was about disappearing. And when I opened the family bank account again, a new notification appeared. A large withdrawal, $27,800, from my son's savings. Destination account ending in 8088. Hawaii's area code is 808. That's when I knew she hadn't gone on vacation. She was running, and she thought I was too old, too tired, and too useless to stop her. She was wrong. I didn't sleep that night. The house was too quiet, and my mind was too loud. Every creak in the floorboard sounded like footsteps. Every passing car like a getaway vehicle. I sat at the kitchen table with a pot of black coffee, and the same thought circling my head. What if she was really trying to disappear with the kids? By morning, I had a plan. I pulled out the blue binder I kept in the cabinet marked, "If I get hit by a bus." It had everything: insurance papers, passwords, bank contacts, even my will. I added a new tab labeled Hawaii. Old habits die hard. Boeing taught me to document everything. And if there's one thing I learned from 40 years on the line, it's that evidence wins every argument. Before the kids woke up, I went around the house and checked the security cameras. The porch cam, the garage cam, and without anyone knowing, my old GoPro taped under the living room shelf. I'd installed it years ago for fun time lapses of woodworking projects. Now it would serve a new purpose. When the kids came down, they looked surprised to find pancakes shaped like airplanes waiting for them. I told them, "No phones until after breakfast." Aiden glared but didn't argue. Chloe asked, "Are you mad at Mom?" I didn't answer. Instead, I said, "You three are my mission for now. Let's start by cleaning up this hangar." The first twist came before noon. While I was sorting laundry, I found a small envelope tucked in the pocket of Aiden's backpack. It wasn't addressed, just a folded piece of paper inside. A copy of the same travel consent form the CPS woman saw yesterday, but this one had 3 plane tickets stapled to it. 1 adult, 3 minors, Seattle to Honolulu, departure date, tomorrow. I felt my knees go weak. Aiden came into the room, froze when he saw what I was holding. His face went pale. "Did Mom give you this?" I asked. He looked down. "She said not to tell anyone." "She said we're moving and it's a surprise for Dad." I took a slow breath. "Did she say why?" He hesitated. "She said you're getting old and Dad's tired. That it's time for her to take care of us her way. That her way burned like acid." By afternoon, I was at my credit union downtown. The teller, a kid young enough to be my grandson, looked up my joint accounts. "Sir, looks like there's a large transfer in progress." "It's pending, but not cleared yet." "How large?" $27,800. To an account in Hawaii, I leaned on the counter, steady but cold. "Cancel it," he frowned. "Sir, we can't stop an external transfer without both signatures." "Well," I said, "you have one of them right here." He gave me a sympathetic look. "I'll flag it for fraud review." Back home, the kids were sprawled on the couch. Chloe watched a cartoon. Leo built something out of Legos. I noticed his tablet was open to a group chat labeled Mom plus Uncle Kai. My stomach tightened. "Who's Uncle Kai?" I asked. Leo shrugged. "Mom's friend. He gives us candy when Dad's at work." I took the tablet gently. "What kind of candy?" "Chocolate." He said not to tell Dad because it's a secret trip. The more I heard, the worse it got. Every detail fit too neatly. The consent forms, the bank transfer, the trip to Hawaii. She wasn't just running. She was setting up my son to look like the careless one who lost his kids. That night, I called my old friend Joe, who'd retired from the Port of Seattle police 5 years ago. I told him everything: the CPS visit, the fake paperwork, the bank transfer. He didn't even pause. "You're not crazy, Rick. I've seen this before. You need timestamps, messages, faces. Build your case quietly. Don't spook her." I smiled. "You're telling that to a man who spent 4 decades tightening bolts to FAA specs." At midnight, I opened my son's bank account again. The transfer was still pending, flagged now with a yellow warning triangle. Progress. Then a notification popped up from the Ring doorbell at my son's house. Motion detected. I tapped the live feed. A U-Haul truck in the driveway. 2 figures hauling boxes. One of them was her, my daughter-in-law, in a hoodie, moving fast. The other was a man I'd never seen before. I hit record. The next morning, I printed the screenshots, date and time-stamped. Then I called my son at work. His voice was groggy. He works night shifts, building cranes on the docks. "Dad, what's wrong?" "You need to come home, son." "I can't leave mid-shift. We're short today." I told him about the U-Haul, the tickets, the money. He went silent for a long time. Then quietly, "She said it was a work trip." "Just a few days. She even asked me to sign a form last week for the kids' passports." "Did you read it?" "No, I trust her don't," I said. "Not anymore." I could hear him breathing hard on the other end. "What do we do, Dad?" "We gather proof, and when she lands, we'll make sure she never takes off again." There was a long pause, then he whispered, "Dad, what if she's already gone?" I looked at my phone, the AirTag I'd hidden in the kid's suitcase the day she dropped them off. It had just pinged again. Location: SeaTac International Airport, Terminal 2. The timestamp, 11:47 a.m. And that's when I realized she wasn't waiting for tomorrow's flight. She was leaving right now. I grabbed my jacket, my keys, and the binder, always the binder, and bolted out the door. The rain in Tacoma was the kind that soaks you from the inside out, cold and thin like needles. My truck coughed to life, and I drove faster than I had in years, windshield wipers slapping in angry rhythm. My heart pounded not from fear, but from something older, something like betrayal turning into fuel. The AirTag signal was moving. Terminal 2, short-term parking. I called my son. "Meet me at SeaTac. Bring your ID, and don't talk to anyone until I get there." He didn't ask questions. Maybe for the first time in his life, he heard my tone and knew this wasn't a drill. Traffic was brutal. Rush hour, construction cones, wet asphalt. But adrenaline has a way of bending time. When I pulled into the terminal garage, I spotted her SUV right away. The vanity plate still said BRK4EVR. Brooke forever, except nothing about her was forever except her greed. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, what would you do if your daughter-in-law tried to take your grandkids and run? Would you forgive her or make her pay? I saw her near the curb, wearing yoga pants and sunglasses, hair up, dragging a suitcase bigger than Leo. The kids were nowhere in sight. Beside her stood a man, tall, tanned, wearing a mariner's cap and holding a carry-on. His arm brushed hers like they'd done it 1,000 times before. I stayed in the truck, engine off, heart steady. I needed proof. So I hit record on my phone's camera and zoomed in. She was smiling, laughing, too relaxed for a woman supposedly taking a business trip. Then my son pulled up in his old Corolla, jumped out, and froze when he saw her. She froze too, but only for a second. "Michael? What are you doing here?" Her voice went high, fake sweet. I could hear it even from where I sat. "I could ask you the same thing," he said. "Where are the kids?" Her sunglasses hid her eyes, but I saw her swallow hard. "They're with my mom." "Your mom's in Phoenix," he said quietly. "Try again." The man in the mariner's cap stepped forward, puffed up like a guard dog. "Hey man, maybe calm down." I got out before my brain could catch up. The rain hit me full in the face, but my voice came out clear. "You must be Uncle Kai." The man blinked. "Who are you?" "Her father-in-law," I said. "The useless one." Brooke's face drained of color. "Rick, you're misunderstanding." Am I? I held up my phone, the screen showing the bank transfer confirmation, time-stamped, destination account ending in 8088. You stole from my son, her jaw clenched. That money was mine too. Joint savings, yes. But this? I pulled a printed screenshot from the binder, sealed in a plastic sleeve. This is a travel consent form you forged using my signature. You picked the wrong machinist to fake handwriting around. Michael's voice cracked. You were taking them, weren't you? She dropped the act then. All the fake sweetness evaporated. You think I'm going to let my kids rot in this dead-end town while you work yourself into an early grave? Hawaii is a better life. You should thank me. The moral line blurred right there in the middle of the rain. Some people watching would probably agree with her. A fresh start, paradise, the American dream. But at what cost? To her children's sense of safety? To my son's dignity? Michael stepped closer, trembling. A better life built on lies isn't a better life. Security guards started to notice the argument. I handed them my binder. There's a fraud alert tied to her account. Call Port Police. The man in the mariner's cap whispered something to Brooke and backed away fast. That's when it hit me. He wasn't loyal. He was scared. And the moment he saw officers approaching, he vanished into the crowd. Don't you walk away from me, Brooke shouted, but he was gone. The guards separated everyone. One officer, a young woman, calm voice, asked me to explain. I told her everything. The fake notary stamp, the transfer, the CPS visit. She turned to Brooke. Ma'am, I need to see identification for the minors you're traveling with. Brooke hesitated too long. The officer's eyes narrowed. Where are the children right now? They're safe, she said finally, voice trembling. Safe where? She didn't answer. Then my phone buzzed. Another AirTag alert. Location update. Tacoma. My house. I looked up. They're at my place. Michael's eyes met mine, wet from the rain, or maybe from realization. She left them behind. The officer called dispatch, confirming the signal. Brooke tried to grab her suitcase, but the guard stopped her. She was shaking now, mascara running down her face. You can't do this. I'm their mother. I stepped closer, my voice steady but not cruel. A mother protects her children. She doesn't use them as shields. They led her away for questioning. As the lights from the police cruiser flickered across the wet pavement, I felt nothing. No joy, no triumph. Just a quiet, aching exhaustion. Michael turned to me. Dad, what happens now? I looked at the empty spot where she'd stood, her perfume still lingering in the rain. Now we pick up the pieces, I said, and we make sure the kids know the truth. He nodded slowly, but his eyes drifted to the suitcase she'd dropped. The zipper had come half open, revealing stacks of cash and a printed deed with his name scratched out. Dad, he whispered, she sold the house. For a second, everything around us disappeared. The sirens, the people, the airport noise, and that's when I realized this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The airport lights still burned behind us when we drove back to Tacoma, in silence. The rain had slowed, but the storm inside me hadn't. I'd thought the worst part was over, catching her before she got on that plane. But seeing that half-zipped suitcase full of cash changed everything. That wasn't just betrayal. That was war. By the time we pulled into my driveway, dawn was bleeding into the sky. My porch light flicked on automatically. The same porch light that had recorded her every visit, every sneer, every insult. Except now, it was going to do more than light the way. It was going to expose everything she'd done. Inside, the house smelled like bacon grease and wet socks. The kids had fallen asleep on the couch, huddled under the blanket I'd made years ago. Aiden stirred when he heard us. Dad? Grandma? Is Mom back? Michael hesitated, his voice caught somewhere between rage and heartbreak. Not yet, buddy. But we're going to fix things? I motioned for him to follow me to the kitchen. I poured 2 mugs of black coffee and laid the suitcase on the table. Cash, documents, jewelry, even a copy of a quitclaim deed with Michael's name scratched out and hers written in. I flipped through the stack and found a second surprise. Photos. Her and that man, Kai, standing in front of a for sale sign with my son's house in the background. She wasn't just running away, I said quietly. She was planning to erase you. Michael ran a hand through his hair, eyes red from exhaustion. Dad, what do we do? She'll say I knew. She'll twist it. She always does. I slid the blue binder across the table. We don't fight her lies with shouting. We fight them with proof. That's when my doorbell rang. I thought it was the police following up, but when I checked the screen, my stomach turned. It was Brooke. Hair frizzed, mascara streaked. She looked nothing like the woman who'd strutted through the airport a few hours ago. She pounded the door like a mad woman. Rick, open up. I know you're in there. The kids woke. Chloe started to cry. I turned to Michael. Take them upstairs. Don't say a word. When he was gone, I opened the door just enough to meet her eyes. You have 5 seconds to step off my porch before I call the police. She laughed, a brittle, broken sound. You think you've won? You have no idea what's coming. I smiled, a calm, steady kind of smile. Actually, I do. She pushed the door, but it didn't move. I had installed a steel latch last winter when coyotes were prowling the neighborhood. You broke into my son's accounts, I said. You forged my signature. You filed fake CPS reports. Every word you said is recorded on camera. Her face twisted. You think anyone will believe you over me? I'm the mother. You're just some bitter old man that hit harder than it should have. Bitter old man. Maybe I was. But at least I was a man who could sleep at night. Behind her, headlights flashed. A police cruiser pulled up, tires hissing on wet pavement. Brooke turned, her voice switching back to syrupy sweet. Officer! Thank God you're here. He's keeping my kids from me. The officer, a young woman, stepped out, hand resting on her belt. Ma'am, we got a report of theft and fraud involving you. We'll need to speak inside, with both parties. Brooke's smile froze. I let them in. The officer took one look at the suitcase on the table and the deed with the scratched-out name. Her radio crackled. Dispatch, this is Unit 7. We have visual evidence of property fraud. Requesting a supervisor. Brooke lunged for the suitcase, but I caught her wrist midair. Careful, I said softly. That's Exhibit A. She yanked her hand back. You can't prove any of this. I opened the binder, turned it toward the officer, and pointed. Here's the notary stamp from December 26th. Here's the county record showing the office was closed that week. Here's the security footage of her dropping off the kids the night before the fake CPE's call. Each page landed like a hammer. Brooke's face went paler with every turn. The officer exhaled. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to step outside. Brooke tried one last time to salvage her power. Michael will never forgive you, Rick. You ruined his family. I looked at her for a long second, then said, No, Brooke. You ruined it yourself. I just turned on the lights. The officer guided her out, but I could hear her voice fading down the driveway. You'll regret this. You'll all regret this. Maybe she was right. Maybe it would hurt like hell in the days to come. But for the first time in years, the house felt lighter. Michael came downstairs, kids trailing behind. Is she gone? For now, I said, but she's not done yet. He looked at the suitcase, the cash, the papers. Dad, what do we do with all this? I closed the binder and locked it in the cabinet. We build a case. And when the court date comes, we don't yell, we don't cry, we show the truth. Outside, the siren lights flickered against the wet windows. Inside, the kids clung to their father, quiet, unsure. I poured another cup of coffee and stared at the rain. For 40 years, I'd built machines that carried people across oceans. Now I was building something harder, a wall strong enough to keep my family safe. And as I watched the red and blue fade into the night, one thought steadied me like steel. She thought I was useless. Tomorrow, she'd find out just how dangerous a useless man could be. 2 weeks passed after that night, and the house finally started to breathe again. No police lights, no shouting, just the slow rhythm of rebuilding, one small piece of peace at a time. The kids had stopped asking when their mother was coming home. Michael had started sleeping through the night again. And me? I was learning how to live without waiting for the next disaster. But peace doesn't mean justice, and I wasn't ready to let this story end with her walking away. The police investigation moved faster than I expected. Between the fake signatures, the bank transfers, and the airport footage, Brooke's scheme looked more like a textbook case of fraud and custodial interference than family drama. Still, she had lawyers. She knew how to twist pity into armor. She posted pictures on social media, crying selfies, long captions about an abusive ex and a controlling father-in-law. Half the town fell for it. At first, I wanted to fight her online. I typed out angry comments, then deleted them. I'd learned the hard way that yelling into the void doesn't change minds. It just gives liars a louder stage. So instead, I gathered my evidence, every timestamp, every recording, and waited for the right moment. The court date arrived on a gray Tuesday morning. It smelled like rain and cheap coffee, the kind of day when everything feels heavy. Brooke walked in wearing a white blouse, like she was auditioning for sainthood. The same woman who once called me useless now wouldn't even look me in the eye. Her lawyer spoke first, smooth, rehearsed, claiming she was just a misunderstood mother trying to protect her kids from a toxic household. When it was my turn, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I told the court what really happened, how she'd drained the accounts, forged documents, called CPS with fake reports, and tried to fly out of the country with the kids under a new name. I showed the ring footage, the GoPro files, the signed bank forms. Then I played the final recording, the one I'd found 2 nights earlier on a hidden SD card in her SUV. Brooke's own voice filled the courtroom. Once we're in Hawaii, they can't touch us. He's too old to stop me. I'll drain what's left, sell the house, and he can rot in that dump with his little retirement check. The room went silent. Her lawyer tried to object, but the damage was done. Michael's hands were shaking beside me. The judge leaned forward. "Mrs. Miller, do you deny this recording?" Brooke opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Her mask finally cracked. When the verdict came, it was simple and final. Fraud, forgery, attempted parental kidnapping, 18 months probation, full restitution of the stolen money, and, what hurt her most, complete loss of custody. The kids would live with Michael. Supervised visitation only. She tried to speak, but the judge stopped her. "You built a cage out of lies, Mrs. Miller. Now you can live in it." That's the thing about revenge. It's not about watching someone fall. It's about watching the truth finally stand up. When we walked out of that courthouse, the rain had stopped. The air smelled clean again. The kids were waiting with my neighbor, drawing on the sidewalk with chalk. Chloe ran up, holding a picture. Our family standing in front of the house. No shadows behind us. "Grandpa," she said, "is it over now?" I knelt down, my knees aching, and smiled. "Yes, sweetheart, it's over." But a week later, the final twist came. The local paper ran a small article about the case. Nothing dramatic, just the facts. Yet in this town, facts spread faster than gossip. Her friends stopped liking her posts. The women who used to sip wine with her at PTA meetings stopped returning her calls. Even the man she'd planned to run away with moved out of state. Brooke didn't go to prison, but in a way she got a sentence worse than that. Irrelevance. No audience left to manipulate. No one left to believe her stories. As for us, we started something new. Michael fixed up the house she'd tried to steal. The kids helped me build a small workshop in the garage where we made wooden birdhouses for the neighborhood. Every nail, every coat of paint, felt like stitching a wound closed. I don't hate her anymore. I did for a long time. But hate only keeps you tied to the person who hurt you. Now, when I think of her, I just feel distance. Like looking at a storm cloud that's finally drifted past. If this story taught me anything, it's that silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. Patience isn't surrender. It's the sharpest tool you'll ever own. Sometimes the best revenge isn't shouting. It's standing still long enough for the truth to echo louder than any lie. Have you ever trusted someone who turned out to be nothing like you thought? Or had to rebuild from the pieces they left behind? Tell me your story in the comments. I read every one, and if this story hit close to home, stay a while. We tell real stories here about justice, about healing, about finding your strength when the world underestimates you.